Miarabantsika indray tonga soeto amin'ny pejy zava-manahiran'ny vehivavy handray vahiny vehivavy Amerikanina antsika androany Rebekah ny anarany. Mpiara-mianatra zahay roa miara-mianatra amin'ny Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary aty Berkeley, California aty Etats-Unis fa mitovitovy koa ny lalana nizoranay efa nianatra informatika izy efa nianatra médecine izy elle parle français aussi. Elle était déjà allée au Canada. Fa izara miteny gasy atsika androany dia amin'ny teny anglisy izy no hiteny dia izaho mandika ny zavatra holazainy amin'ny teny malagasy. So thank you, Becca, for accepting the invitation to share your story with the Malagasy audience, since I will translate it in Malagasy. So welcome to the zava-manahiran'ny vehivavy Facebook page. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Becca. I am a student with Mommy, and I was born in Paraguay. And my mom, who is American, wanted to have children, and so she wasn't married, so she decided to adopt children in order to have them. So she adopted me and my sister as a single mom, and she is a minister and ordained in the United States. And with that, she just wanted kids. So that's kind of how I came to America, is the beginning of the story.
Araka ny nolazainy teo zany Rebekah ny anarany Rebekah moa zany dia foizina hoe Rebekah teraka tany Paraguay izy any Amerika Latina, fa ny reniny izay nanangana azy ho zanaka zany dia vehivavy Amerikanina, Pasteur vehivavy Amerikanina ny mamany fa tsy manambady dia nanapa-kevitra izy hanangana zanaka. Dia izy sy ny rahavaviny zany samy zaza natsangana daholo izy roa. Tsy nilazainy teo moa fa efa fantatra satria zay efa niara-nianatra efa semestre anankiray taloha zay tsy iray tapo zany izy mirahavavy fa samy zanak'olona samy hafa fa samy avy any Paraguay no natsangan'ilay reniny vehivavy Pasteur Amerikana zay tsy manambady.
Awesome. And so me and my sister grew up in Ohio, where we grew up, and she was a minister. So she had four sisters when I grew up, and she never married until she later had a husband when I was in high school. But I grew up with just her and her sisters and a lot of women in my life. I did not have a lot of men in my life at all. So growing up with women was definitely, I think, a unique experience. And living in an all-girls house was a very unique experience.
Tany Ohio, État anankiray aty Etats-Unis zany zareo no nitombo no nitaizan'ny mamany an zareo nanana rahavavy efatra hafa zany ilay rahavaviny fa izy moa zany no vavy-tokana niaraka natsangany mamany tamin'ny rahavaviny io. Dia tamin'ny fahazazany sy tamin'ny fitombony zany izy dia tena nanodidina vehivavy be dia be, dia hafa mihitsiny zany ilay expérience-ny tao anatin'izay fiainana hoe maro vavo izay antsika malagasy zay.
Yeah, so growing up with only women allowed a lot of freedom. Having a mom who worked and having someone who was a community leader as a pastor, I saw a lot of leadership skills, a lot of confidence, and I saw her ability, particularly think as women, being able to relate to not only other women, but to men and to community members. So being able to grow up around that and grow up with women who are both in power but also relational, I think was a strength to be able to be surrounded in that type of community.
Tamin'izay fitomboko tao anatina fiaraha-monina tena hoe vehivavy daholo zay taizan'ny reniko mpitarika ray aman-dreny teo amin'ny fiangonana izy de tena nampahery sy nazahoako hery ozy izy ny nahitako any mamako hoe tena vehivavy matanjaka, vehivavy mpitarika teo amin'ny fiangonana sy teo amin'ny fiarahamonina. May I have a question related to that?
Yeah.
Since in the Malagasy community, it's actually a shame to grow up without both parent, mom and dad. And a lot of single mom, especially, are looked down with their kids, especially girls. So when you talk about it gives you a lot of strength, that is just strange and it's hard even for me to understand. Would you explain it like more?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think when single moms have more responsibilities than two parents do. When you have two parents, you have a balance. You have mom as a motherly caretaker, take care maybe of the home or working, and then you have the father figure who is more of like the head of the household, perhaps, and the one who brings strength or makes more money or something of that nature. When you have a single mom who works and who has kids, she does both. And so doing both roles as one person takes immense strength because single fathers can be motherly, but they aren't the caretakers that women have that inner strength and just the feminine power almost to be able to be that caretaker. So having someone who can be a caretaker and work is immense power. Whether or not society sees it, perhaps not, but it comes from within. And I think single mothers who work as hard as they do exude that. And so I would say to always keep your chin up and walk with confidence and be the powerful person because you are doing two roles. And that's immense strength.
Tany anazy moa za teo hoe tena tsy takatra ny saiko mihitsy ho aho satria za avy amina fiarahamonina raha vao hoe vehivavy surtout reny tsy manambady sy mitaiza ny zanany irery zany ambanin'ny fiarahamonina tsy nitsiniavon'olona de hoe ahoana ho any mahatonga anao miteny hoe ilay anao mitaiza ny reny fotsiny nanodidina vehivavy marobe nazahoanao hery de ny fanazavany anazy moa zany hoe ilay reny manano tena zany hoe tsy manambady mitaiza ny zanany de tsy maintsy matanjaka izy satria sady mikarakara ilay côté mahareny manome fitiavana sy mikarakara ny tokantranony zany ilay reny tsy manambady no tsy maintsy mandray koa ilay andraikitra n'ilay ray mamelona miaro ny ankohonany fa raha ny eritreritra no izy satria tsy hitany moa ilay hoe ohatra ny ahoana zany ray sy manana ray zany mety hoe ho sarotra amin'ny lehilahy nefa ozy izy ny iandraikitra n'io andraikitra anankiroa hoe sady mpikarakara ny ankohonana no mpampidibola kokoa sy mpiaro zany hoe manana hery kokoa ao amin'ny ankohonana io. Thank you very much for sharing that. Let's talk about a single mom as a church leader. How did you grow up as a pastor kid with a single mom pastor in the community?
Did you want to translate the question first or no?
Yeah, when I translate both the question and the response.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, growing up as a pastor's kid of a single mom was amazing. I went to church a lot. Obviously I was in the faith community. And I think the saying in the US, we say it takes a village to raise a child. So I had a lot of love. I grew up in a space that was very supportive, that was everybody watched me grow up. And I think when you have a community watch children grow up together, there's ownership in that. There are stories and experiences and values that they give me as a faith community. So I grew up in an incredibly loving place. And I think the church can be a loving place. I think it can be a harmful place, but I strive that we have more communities of faith that are loving.
Nanontany anazy moa za teo hoe nanahoana amizay ara zany hoe zanaka pastera tsy nanambady zany ianao nanahoana ny fijerin'olona anao tao amin'ny fiangonana. De araka ny lazainy teo hoe misy fiteny Amerikanina zay moa izy hoe rehefa mitaiza zaza anao tena mila ny fiarahamonina manontolo mihitsiny de tena tsapany zany hoe tena niara-nitaiza anazy tao anatin'ny fiangonana. Ireo mpiangona tao amin'ilay fiangonana nentin'ny reniny zany tena samy nandray anjara tamin'ny fanabeazana, tamin'ny fanehoana fitiavana sy ny fikarakarana anazy mihitsiny ny mpiara-miangona tamin'ny rehetrarehetra. Fa tsy nahatsiaro voahilikilika zany izy fa vao maika ary nahazo fitiavana sy fikarakarana misimisy kokoa. That is also like counter Malagasy culture. Like kids of single moms are often neglected, looked down. But I experienced it actually as I came as a single mom here in the US. A lot, the community, everybody want to support us with my parenting. So I really appreciate you sharing that too. Now, going back to your grown-up life, can you share more about your experience, studies? You went abroad. How was it?
For sure. So after high school, I went to university in Canada. And I think when you grow up with someone who does do it all, you have a confidence or an independence that you're raised with that you also can do anything you want to do. And so I went to university, I studied really hard, and then I studied science and engineering, and then I transferred back to the United States and studied neuroscience. And that was incredible. But down the road, I felt called to ministry. I felt called to come back to the church that I grew up in. And so now I'm studying to become a chaplain, and to be able to sit with people and be able to advocate and support people who need spiritual care. So that's kind of my journey. But it's lots of a Canadian experience was different than the American one. But I think all in that, in terms of being who I am, I was able to do that just very independently, which I think is a gift to how I was raised, for sure.
Nanontany anazy amizay moa za rehefa avy eo hoe tantaraonay amizay rehefa avy eo ny fiainanao rehefa niala tao amin'ny ray aman-dreny de rehefa navita lycée izy ozy izy fianarana tamin'ny lycée zany de nandeha nianatra tamin'ny université tany a Canada izy nianatra ingénieur en sciences moa zany no nianarany tany de rehefa avy eo nanao transfert izy nianatra momba ny engineering amin'ny biochimie zany no tohizany taty rehefa tonga taty niverina taty États-Unis indray mandeha izy de ilay nitombony nahitany reniny tena hoe naleo tena nanabe azy mirahavavy zany de tena nananany hery koa nananany fahasahiana zany hoe za koa kay zany tena mahavita azy afaka misafidy an'izay zavatra tiako atao koa za satria mamanay ara nahavita nitaizana SAMIRERY de za koa zany mahaleo tena indépendante afaka manao mandeha SAMIRERY koa misafidy eo amin'ny fiainany. De tao anatin'izay nefa nahatsapany hoe nahare antso izy te hiasa amin'ny fiangonana de zay mahatonga anazy mianatra théologie amin'izao mba ho tonga aumônière hikarakara ny fiainam-panahin'ny olona. So with all that journey, how do you then relate to men? I know personally that you want to become a chaplain in the military, which is mostly men. So why that choice at first related to your, I mean, as a woman?
Yeah, I think my relations with men is interesting because I didn't have a fatherly figure. I think it allowed me to relate to boys my own age differently. I never had an hierarchical leader of a male except maybe a teacher or a professor. And so I always saw and had relations with men at um a very warm way in terms of an education, in terms of a teacher-student relationship. And so I was able to relate to that in a very positive way. I had very positive relations. And then my friends growing up were mostly boys. I loved running around on the playground and I played sports quite a bit. So that was usually male dominated. And so it wasn't that my life was without men, it just wasn't inside the home. And so growing up with that and going through high school and dating and college, I think you learn that in development that, but I don't think I lacked anything from not having a father. I think yeah. So in terms of how I chose military was I see a lot of pain and harm in the military, and the theology in the military can be kind of harmful to soldiers. And I feel really called to um, support the people who are protecting us. And that just happens to be male dominated. If it was an army full of women, I would be called regardless. It's, they're volunteering their lives and giving up and sacrificing. And I feel called to support that, and support their faith in that.
Oh, interesting. Nanontany anazy amin'izay moa za avy eo hoe satria fantatro manokana izy ao am-pianarana zany ny antony ianarany teolojia de te ho tonga aumônière militaire zany izy de hoe ahoana ho ahy ianao tsy nahita an'ilay hoe fiarahana tamin'ny ray tao anaty tokantrano nefa te ho mpanohana ara-panahy ny militaire zay be kokoa ny lehilahy noho ny vehivavy. De araka ny navaliny hoe tsy de mahatsiaro loatra banga fifandraisana tamin'ny lehilahy zany izy na de tsy nanana ray ara tao an-tokantrano fa na de hatramy tamin'ny mbola kely izy tamin'ny tany an-tsekoly rehefa le nanana olon-tiana de nifandray tamina lehilahy foana miara manao sport amin'ny lehilahy izy nanana namana lehilahy izy nanana sakaiza lehilahy izy de tsy de hoe banga be zany ilay fifandraisana tamina lehilahy fa tsy manana an'ilay fifandraisana hierarchika fotsiny zany izy hoe lehilahy ambony de vehivavy ambany fa mifandray tamina lehilahy mpampianatra anazy ohatra izy tsy manana olana mihitsy zany izy amina fifandraisana amin'ny lehilahy na de tsy nanana an'izay hoe ray tao anatin'ny ankohonany zay ary mahaliana anazy kokoa ny amaly an'ilay antso ho mpitaiza ara-panahy no miaramila satria ireo miaramila ireo na lehilahy ireo na vehivavy sendra hoe be lehilahy fotsiny moa no miaramila zany fa na miaramila lehilahy na miaramila vehivavy ozy izy de mba te hanohana an'izy ireo ara-panahy zany izy satria ireo miaramila ireo militaire ireo tena manolo-tena izy manolotra ny fiainany hiaro ny vahoaka sy ny fireneny de mba tiany zany ny hanohana anazy ireo koa amin'ny lafiny ara-panahy. That is so much interesting from a woman to want to be a military chaplain. And hearing a little bit about Malagasy women, especially from me, have you heard about Malagasy women before? How do you know about Malagasy women or Malagasy in general?
Yeah, I know a little bit. I was interested in actually studying abroad there. And when studying French, the French in Madagascar is very specific and gorgeous. And so that was really the first time I knew was I wanted to go and study the languages there. And so the Malagasy women I'm not as familiar with. I'm more familiar with Western African women, but not specifically Eastern African or Malagasy. But from what I know from you, yeah, they seem empowering, but it's a hard society. It's not a position that is probably supportive of leadership that I think that is deserving, of women.
Nanontany anazy amin'izay moa za avy hoe mahafantapantatra momba ny malagasy na ny vehivavy malagasy ve ianao De araka ny lazainy kelikely ihany izy izy no mba fantany arak'izay fifampizarana efa nataonay fa tamin'ny alalany rehefa nianatra momba ny frantsay hoe izy de nafantatra zany hoe nafantatra ny toeran'ireo frantsay ireo tao anatin'ny fiarahamonina malagasy de zay koa no mba kely fantapantany fa ny izay mba fantany zay zany de nahitany hoe tsy de manohana loatra ny vehivavy ny fiarahamonina malagasy. So what message or encouragement would you want to share to Malagasy women still facing that discriminating position in the society, especially when you're a single mom or a kids of a single parent?
Yeah, I would say women have power in being mothers, and women have power in just being women. And whether you're a woman or not, we support other women. So I would encourage them to, no matter if you're married or single, we support each other and we support each other's kids because they could be our kids' friends, or it's a community and it takes everyone. And you're fighting against the same thing. They're all on the same team, you know. Women need to unite against the patriarchy, and they can't do that if there is hostility between. And life is hard, but if you have some really good female friends, you feel that power. And that's what I would encourage, is to support each other, and make more friends and build that.
Manoloana an'izay experience-nao zay oasy rehefa nazavaiko hoe ambanina ny vehivavy malagasy indrindra zay reny tokatena mitaizany zanany tsy manambady inona no mba afatra tolotra ao an'ireo vehivavy malagasy ireo de araka ny teniny zany de hoe mampahery sy mampirisika ny samy vehivavy hifampahery sy hiara-hiady amin'ilay patriarkalisme zany satria mila fiombonana zany io na ny fiarahana mitaizany reny le zaza le tsy manandray reny raha mifanampy ny samy vehivavy satria zanaky ny vehivavy namanao mitovy aminao ohatran'ny hoe zanakao koa zany reny zaza tsy manandray reny de tokony tsika samy vehivavy no hifanampy sy hifanohana amin'izay. I literally never heard about patriarchy or it is just normal in the Malagasy society to see men, this hierarchical men higher than women. And for you who grow up in like egalitarian society like America, it's really easy to talk like that. Like we need to fight against it. But would you explain why is then, because it's not that normal to think about egalitarian in the Malagasy society. Why are we equal? We have been taught that women are lower. We need male protection. We need the paternal care. So I want to talk more about that from your own perspective.
Yeah, I think it's important that women understand their value. Because I don't think it's necessarily I think it is about being equal, but it's more about not being less than. And when you grow up being told you have to do this, or you have to listen to who's telling you that. Is it your mom who heard it from her father? And is it if it's generational and it's cultural, then you have to kind of seek that out. And that's hard when there's not a lot, but I think when we grow up and we hear you're less than, or you can't go to school, or you shouldn't work, I would always question, well, why can't I? And ask the questions. And when you start exploring, I think am I doing what I want to do? Have you thought about that? Ask that question. Um, and I think women in societies that are oppressed and that are less than, um, I don't know how happy, um, is it true happiness that you feel? And if you don't feel true happiness, or you just feel like this is the way it is, it's not always that way, you know? Every society is different. There are societies of all women. Um, and if a man didn't need a woman to be a mother, he would be a single father. So women have value in that, you know? Women don't need men to be raise a family, but men need a woman to raise a family. So there's value in that. And understanding yourself, I think, is important for a human. As being a human, it's important to explore that.
Um, Momba le hafatra nomeny teo moa zany de nanazava taminazy aho hoe mora be aminareo lehibe taty amin'ny tontolo tandrefana efa hoe mira lenta ny lehilahy sy ny vehivavy ny miteny hoe mila miady amin'io le fanaovana ambony sy ambany ny lehilahy sy vehivavy io za ny anareo vehivavy malagasy fa azonao hazavaina misimisy kokoa ve hoe inona no ilazana hoe mitovy tsika lehilahy sy ny vehivavy. De araky ny fanazavana izay nomeny teo moa hoe amin'ny fiaraha-monina matetika hita zany ny vehivavy de afaka ny lehilahy izay misafidy hoe tsy hanana ny ankonany fa hamela ny vehivavy irery amin'le adidy ao amin'ny ankonana de safidiny izay fa tsy midika mihitsy ny hoe tsy maintsy tsy mahavita an'izay le vehivavy raha ohatra ka tsy eo le lehilahy. Zany hoe antsika vehivavy zany de fa ny lehilahy kosa nefany tsy mahavita mitaiza ny ankonany samirery fa tsy maintsy mila vehivavy izy hanampy anazy amin'le andraikitra mahareny. De na izay fotsiny ara de efa tena hoe zava-dehibe tombony ho antsika vehivavy zany ny fananana an'izay le hoe mahavita azy atsika tsy voatery hiankina amin'ny olona hafa. De zay zany de efa tokony hatsapahantsika vehivavy hoe le zavatra tenenin'olona tenenin'ny ray aman-dreny amintsika hoe ambany tsika tokony mametra-panontaniana tsika fa maninona tokoa moa zany no atao hoe ambany. De mila manontany ny tenantsika koa tsika vehivavy hoe tena mety amiko ve izao, mila mahay mametra-panontaniana zany antsika fa tsy manaiky fotsiny hoe efa ohatran'io ny vehivavy. De izay fa mila misaina tsara zany antsika maninona tokoa moa tsika no atao hoe ambany, fa inona no mampambany antsika, inona ny zavatra tsy ampy amintsika, fa itsika vehivavy aza ny tena hoe mahavita tena kokoa ara na de andeha irery fa tsy ohatran'ny hoe lehilahy tsy maintsy mila vehivavy izy hanampy anazy hitaiza ny ankonany. That is powerful and especially new for us who grew up in a society where questioning is not when you start to question a lot, you're not the wise woman or a wise kid. Wise person in the Malagasy society is the one who accepts everything, and wise woman is the one who submits and say yes to everything. Even I myself never asked about, like, am I happy doing that? As you say, especially when you're not given the opportunity to go to school, to have education and be independent. Automatically, you don't even think about what I want. I myself, even if I go to a restaurant, I cannot even choose a menu. I can just eat wherever come. I never grew up with that freedom to choose or encouraged to ask what I really want. So with these women, especially the grown-up mother who didn't get a chance to go to school, who think that it is too late for me to learn all of that. I have to depend on a man, especially a rich man, who can take me as a wife.
Mm,
And Malagasy society, a lot of women endure different kinds of violence,
mm,
from domestic, physical, psychological, all kinds of violence, and think there is no other solution. There is no issue. I cannot go back to school. I cannot do nothing. I just have to endure. I wanted to give kind of a particular message of hope or whatever to this particular group of women.
mm. I'd say take care of yourself as much as you can. And that can look a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's reaching out to a friend, and I think this goes back to having girlfriends and having women be able to talk. If it's a cultural thing that all women are having violence, is there community in that? Do women talk about that or no?
It's a shame even to talk. Husband beating wives
Mhm.
is normalized, and it's a shame for the woman to talk about it to anyone.
Mm.
Like, how do you shame your husband telling that he's beating you to someone else? So that is like normal mindset in the society.
Yeah, and I would ask the question that's hard. All I could say from my point of view is if I was being beaten and I know that it's normal and I see my friend maybe wear long sleeves another day or I notice something, I might squeeze her hand or build that. I would feel very alone in that. That would be very isolating, and I would want support in that, and I would seek someone who would understand that. And that might be another woman. And as shameful as it might be to think that I've done something so bad, I would think who told me that. And that might be the man that told me that, the one who's beating me. So, but is that true? Or is it that the society has allowed men to beat women and I'm just a victim of society and not of what something I did? But I would try and help myself and maybe not feel as isolated and alone. And as dangerous and vulnerable as that is, I would ask what's at stake. And what's at stake is my happiness and my safety and my health. And I would rather be scared of talking to a friend who's a woman than talking to the person who beats me. Um, but that's really hard. That's not an experience or a society I can speak from. I'm speaking from an outside, very privileged white American westernized civilization type, more egalitarian. Abuse still happens here, but I'm speaking um I'm not sure if I'm able to speak anymore to that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing because I myself can find a response to that. I don't even know what to say to these women enduring such kind of violence.
Yeah.
Nanontany anazy moa za teo hoe miezaka nanazava zany hoe tsy mitovy mihitsy anie le fiarahamonina malagasy sy ny aty Amerika. Ny vehivavy malagasy ny ankamaroany le tsy afaka nandeha nianatra izy, tsy manana asa izy dia mieritreritra hoe tsy maintsy mitavandra lehilahy za eo amin'ny fiainako. Ka na dia efa hiara-ny herisetra ara ao an-tokantrano na ara-batana na ara-tsaina dia tsy mieritreritra mihitsy ny ankamaroan'ny vehivavy izay hiarana izany hoe afaka mijery vahaolana za, afaka miala tato fa vao maika ara-menatra na hiteny an'izany amin'olona ary ny toe-tsaitsika malagasy ara de mieritreritra mihitsy hoe manala baraka n'le vady mikapoka na manao herisetra aminy le vehivavy rehefa mitantara an'izany amin'ny olona. Fa araka ny teniny teo moa hoe tena sarotra zany ozy izy tena mahamenatra fa mila miezaka zany ilay vehivavy mitady vahaolana ho an'ny tenany aloha. Marina hoe sarotra kokoa izy ny resaka an'izany na amin'le olona izay mampiatra herisetra aminao aza fa aleo mijery vehivavy na olona ivelany izay afaka mikomprendre anao izaranao an'izany zavatra manjoanao zany satria lasa mahatsiaro hoe irery zany ianao raha vao miatrika zavatra ohatran'izany samirery, de mila manontany tena tsara anao hoe mety amiko ve zao, tena tsisy vahaolana tokoa ve? Fa tokony misy ihany zany olona azo antoka, azo ifampiresahana, afaka hanampy anao fa tsy zavatra normal zany na de hoe tsy de mitovy ara le mbola misy koa izy ny herisetra na de aty Amerika aza fa mila ianao tenanao zany aloha no mahatsapa tena hoe mila miala ato anatin'izao za de miantso vonjy mila miresaka amin'ny namana hafa. Last question before you say if you still have a message to pass on to the not only women but all Malagasy people, especially men. If you had an opportunity to help, how would you do you have any idea or proposition to help these especially oppressed Malagasy women?
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm echoing. There we go. I think I would see what the needs are first, perhaps, and ask. And the first thing I would do if I went to Madagascar is speak with the women and talk with as many as I could. And every woman has different needs, and sometimes they don't know how to name that, or they don't, understand what their needs or wants are. But being able to meet them and talk with them and ask about their lives and tell them about my life, during yours and I's conversations, there's lots of questions of understanding each other. And with that, I think we walk away and we reflect on our own life. Well, mommy had this experience, so how would I experience that? Or why don't I think about it like that? And I think with our stories, there's relations. And so I would try and help as much as I could in terms of my skill set and myself and my time and energy and resources. But everyone is unique, and the Malagasy women have unique circumstances. But being able to share story and share value and community, I think is the best way to start the process, perhaps, of a more systemic, movement.
De nanontany anazy amin'izay ary za teo hoe raha nanana opportunité ro anao hanampy an'ireo vehivavy malagasy ireo de inona ny ataonao? De hozy izy hoe za aloha zany raha afaka nandeha tany Madagasikara zaho izy de nataoko mihitsy zay ifampiresahako amina vehivavy malagasy maro indrindra de niaino ny etaetany hoe inona moa ny zavatra tena hoe mba tianao sy mba hoe irianao sy mety aminao satria samy hafa ny filàny tsirairay avy. De zay zany angamba aloha izy no anomboako anazy hoe miaino mifampiresaka, mifampizara ny tantaram-piainana de ao anatin'ireny fifampizarana tantaram-piainana ireny no iarahana mijery an'izay mety ho azo atao amin'izay. That is exactly the most difficult part for Malagasy women. Even myself, it's hard for me to talk about my story. For example, in this Facebook page, I try to invite Malagasy women to share their story, but it's hard. Culturally, it's hard it's easy like to gossip and talk about like funny or great experience. But when it comes to the broken stories, the shame, and these, that is actually why a lot of people think that Malagasy people are not, Malagasy women are not as oppressed than these very famous women all around the world enduring systematic oppression, because Malagasy women are taught to be silent, to be submissive, to keep secret everything that happened in the household. So what I'm trying to do in this Facebook page is countercultural. And it's hard even to invite women to share secretly their stories. So yeah, that's a great advice. And that is one of the hard work I'm trying to invite women here to share our story. But yeah, it's not that easy. Um, I give you the floor again to give your, I don't want to say last words, but message for both men and women.
I have no message for men, except perhaps listen to the women in your life. Ask them, ask them. Um, Women are very wise. If they weren't, they wouldn't be able to be mothers. And use that, hold that value, and see that value. And to everyone, just take care of yourself as much as you can. And and yeah, wake up with a smile, and hopefully it's sustainable. And you know, all we can do is be kind to each other, and that starts with being kind to ourselves, I think. So, yeah, yeah, be kind.
That is like a new message. Um, niafatra zany niafatra izay atolotrany ho an'ny vehivavy aloha voalohany, ho an'ny lehilahy moa aloha voalohany tsy dia mananteny maro aho izy atolotra ho an'ny lehilahy, fa ny teny tokana izay lazaiko an'ny lehilahy dia hoe henohy ny feon'ireo vehivavy ireo, satria manan-kendry ny vehivavy matoa izy reny afaka mitaiza ny zanany sy ny ankonany, dia manam-pahendrena ny vehivavy, ka henohy ny vehivavy henohy ny vehivavy antanio ny filany. Tena naverimberina ohatran'izay mihitsy moa ilay izy teo, izay ny averimberenako anazy dia niafatra ho an'ny rehetrarehetra, samia miezaka mikarakara ny tenany. Fantaro ny zavatra ilainao dia karakarao ny tenanao, na lehilahy ianao na vehivavy. Thank you very much, Becca. That is a strong message, especially in celebrating the International Women's Day. That is the kind of message women don't often hear in Madagascar. Malagasy women are just encouraged to take care of your family, take care of everybody, but never take care of yourself. So that is one of the strongest message we received from our guests here. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tatra betsaka anazy moa za teo satria isan'ny message tsy dia fahiny eto amin'ny pejy zay le hoe ry vehivavy karakarao ny tenanao zay dia zay zany mahavatra tolotra antsika hoe karakarao ny tenanao fantaro ny zavatra ilainao dia tadiava vahaolana ho anao. See you next time.